Hello and welcome to the Procurement Conversation. This is a new series where we tackle big procurement topics live and with a panel of industry experts. So with me is Kavita Cooper from NovoK. I've got Martin Smith from Talent Drive and Kirsty Carr from Carly Consulting. The idea behind the series is to talk openly about the big issues that we face in procurement, and we'll give an honest and unguarded opinion, and we'll not be afraid to disagree with one another in doing so today we're going to be talking about the procurement talent shortage, what it is, and how we can fix it. So let's dive right in. I think, Martin, is there a talent shortage, and is this something that you guys have in recruitment have concocted, or is it actually something that we're seeing? And what's the impact of it?
Hi, Rich. Thanks for having me. I would love to say it's something that I've conjured up to create some demand in the market for us recruiters, but sadly not. There is a real challenge actually in today's market. People talk openly to us saying, "Hey, great as a recruiter, high volume of vacancies. You guys must be busy." But I always say back to people, it's kind of irrelevant if we can't fill the roles, right? With candidates. So I think there's been an obvious shift with that supply versus demand sort of spectrum. Demand is extremely high, more than it's ever been in my 13 years of doing procurement recruitment, and the supply is unfortunately lower. I think that's particularly topical when we start talking around the sort of entry-level buyer up to kind of category manager and category lead level. Why that is, for me, my personal view is a few things. Firstly, because of the pandemic, there was obviously a retraction in terms of headcount and demand. Businesses obviously furloughing and letting go of staff. So there's been this growth phase that we're seeing now in the economy in the UK, and the real demand that procurement is creating. So there's that demand piece, and it's not keeping up pace with the talent pool that's out there. I think the other thing, what we're seeing is with the inflation, which has obviously been well publicized recently, is candidates that have, are looking for 10, 15, 20k jumps in their salaries in some cases to offset that inflation. And also some people have been underpaid. So they're looking for that real spike. So all of this stuff, I-35 changes, we've had COVID, we've had Brexit, we've had all these other external factors out of the control, have just created this really challenging situation. Something that I know I'm sure we'll talk about today as well is investment in procurement. And that's from an academic point of view. I think a lot more, I know Kirsty and Kavita, I'm sure, speak passionately about this as well. There's a lot more that I believe that the governing bodies, SIPs, education can do to help invest and grow. Because we've almost seen, for me, a lost generation of candidates in that sort of strategic category manager level. And they're hopping straight into contracting work. We're losing a lot of good talent to interim, and we're losing a lot of other talent to other areas of business away from procurement. So, yeah, my succinct answer is yes. And I think they're just a few of the reasons why.
Yeah, and Kavita, I mean, what's the impact of this? What's this actually doing to procurement?
I think it's forcing, there definitely is a talent shortage out there, but I do think it's forcing us to think differently, looking at different models. Traditionally, the recruitment process has been quite linear, and there tends to be two kind of routes. You go permanent or you go interim. And I think we are thinking more outside the box. We're looking at hybrid solutions. We're looking at how potentially we can have a short-term solution, how we can collaborate with other parties, how we can utilize a very skilled resource to maybe upskill not so skilled resource. So I think it is pushing the boundaries in terms of what we've done previously, and that's a good thing. But I think we've got a long way to go to address the current situation. And I do think that while some people are looking to do things differently, there is still a lot of people that are determined to carry on doing things the old way. And unfortunately, as Martin has said, the talent isn't there. So we have to do things differently.
And Kirsty, what do you see as the issues and some of the causes of this?
I think there's some barriers to entry. I'm not sure that procurement's got the best reputation. So if you're at a college doing your A levels, or you're a graduate and you're looking at what roles are out there, I don't think we position ourselves as a super sexy profession. If you look at things like finance, there's a clear route in finance. If I get qualified, I can go here. The world's my oyster. You look at procurement isn't just buying roles. Procurement's got so many jobs within it. And I don't think we market ourselves. I think marketing's a real miss for procurement as a profession. Kavita knows this. I've talked to her about this before. So that attraction piece isn't there. But also, I think we're very stuck in our ways. So as you alluded to there, Kavita, it's quite traditional. So when we go out to do recruitment drives and hiring managers go out, Martin, you can probably attest to this. There's a very fixed list of what we're looking for. Well, actually, there's been studies done that say hiring managers, out of 10 top things that we want, only one of them is job specific, the rest are social skills. Well, if we're going to go out and hire on the same basis year in, year out, we're going to get this same stagnation. And I just think we need to be braver in the way that we pull people in and the way that we market ourselves and the way that we actually perceive what talent is. And it's not 25 people who look the same as the other people in procurement.
I'd agree on that. I think, Martin, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. One of the things that we get asked a lot about, and I think it's probably the top of everyone's list at the moment, is soft skills. So it's great that they've got experience in delivering particular programs or projects, but actually how they engage with their stakeholders, what influencing skills they have, seems to come out at top. And it doesn't matter what level they're at. But I don't know if we do enough as a profession to focus on those areas. You know, if we aren't able to promote ourselves and market ourselves out as a great profession, then what does that say about our soft skills? What is your thought, Martin?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, we say this all the time on the podcast around, you know, procurement has touch points on every area of the business, on sales, on marketing, on finance, supply chain, the whole area. But how many people know that? I always share it with people when, you know, we still go to offices and stuff when we're able to now, and there's no procurement plaque on the board on the buildings. It still talks about finance. Then you navigate your way around and there's a procurement desk in the corner. For me, that's still it's what I refer to as kind of 1990s recruitment. It's the same job descriptions that I was reading when I started, and must have 10 years IT category management, or must have, you know, 6 years HR services, whatever it may be. It's just so prescriptive. Now, I think some businesses are getting better at that, and that sort of IQ versus EQ shift has definitely happened. Behaviours, I totally agree. I think there's some nuances to that. And Rich, obviously, particularly from a technology side, I think there's certain areas in the IT space, you know, particularly with like software licensing experience or some understanding your sort of tech suppliers. I think there are certain roles that do still need to be a little bit prescriptive with that supplier knowledge. However, broadly, procurement should be around behaviours. Ultimately, you know, your sales as hiring manager, Kavita, imagine your function, you know, actually, what am I most interested in? I'm interested in how you engage with our stakeholders, how you can flex your communication style. Do you have the confidence to go out there to the business and influence? It's not a crank the handle type, let's hammer our suppliers. I don't know any business that is in that place, or certainly shouldn't be. So it should be more on the behaviours. There are nuances, but we're still seeing it. So it's about educating, and going back to my earlier point, it's around businesses encourage them to put graduate schemes on, invest in talent, invest in people. Don't just put them on a rotation program and plant them to procurement for a month to get some exposure. Actually put some dedicated procurement programs together, and those businesses can organically grow. The ROI, and that's going to be brilliant, isn't it? You invest in growing your own team. What a fantastic success story. But there's not enough businesses that are doing that. It's a real challenge.
So why aren't they doing it? And Kirsty, I'd love to know your thoughts. Why aren't they? Why are, you know, we talk about you're in the marketing space. So why are we not good at marketing procurement?
So this is
I disagree with you. At the moment, I agree with everything.
I've said this to you before. So I do not like the phrase service function, back office function, support function, whatever word you want to call it, to put procurement in a box. I do not like that. It is equally as important as finance, sales, marketing, whatever. Martin, as you said, we have the privilege in procurement, which I think, apart from maybe HR, we are one of the only functions that can see across the entire business and see where we can impact and make changes and make differences and have a lasting effect on the profitability of that business. So the triple bottom line, all of that, we are primed to be able to talk about all of that. Yet we are still reporting to a CFO. We are still a line or a box under the finance section. We're not given, I don't think we're empowered, or some people are not empowered to go out and say, hang on a minute, you know, this is where we are, this is what we do, this is what we deliver. Again, I'm going to go back to, there's an element of bravery. There's an element of needing people, thought leadership, to actually step out of that box and say, I'm going to do something different with my team. I'm going to have them behave in this way. I'm going to set a culture that allows them to go out, be proud, talk about us, market us, go and sit on forums and panels. I don't know about you. I left the corporate world because I strongly felt that as a female, I was not going to get to the top of that business. It wouldn't matter what I did, I wouldn't get to the top of that business. So to make sure that I'm the top of my business, I've set my own company up. And that way, I'm always going to be at the top of that business, and I'm always going to have a hand. Well, yeah, but I'm always going to have a say. Yeah, but I'm always going to have a say in where I play, how I act, what I do, what I deliver. And I want to see that for procurement teams. I want to see them not wheeled out when there's, when the proverbial poo hits the fan and somebody wants to talk to a supplier. I don't want them wheeled out as a problem solving. I want them in the mix for every discussion. And I think that just starts with procurement taking a step forward itself and owning that space and saying, this is what we're going to do moving forward.
But to achieve that, don't you need the individuals that are like that? Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I find that really sad to hear, Kirsty, to be honest with you, amazing you've set your own business up like you have, Kavita, and that's fantastic and rich as well. But I find that quite sad to hear from a male leader in business that it's driven you to do that. I mean, love it that you've done it, but that's quite a sad indictment on the diversity in procurement that you felt the need to do that. I think it's an important point.
I think we're 20% represented at senior levels within.
I think that's pushing the number, Kirsty.
Yeah, but I'm probably being a little bit.
Is that right? Really?
There.
Okay.
I would agree.
Especially in
with
leadership.
You,
Yeah.
And
the thing for me is, some of the best procurement leaders I've worked with have been female. So it's sort of we're missing out there, definitely.
Well, we talk about EQ and soft skills, and I'm not. Yeah. I don't want to categorize. I don't want to do that, but time has proved that women can be slightly better in that area, and therefore maybe there is an opportunity there to pull on those skills a little bit more than we have been doing in the past.
Well, let's be a bit real here. Let's look at SIPs, if I may, and let's look at the diversity on panels. And let's be a bit controversial here with that. And I think we all know what we're kind of alluding to that. So it does need something to be revamped and refreshed. We as a small boutique procurement recruiter are an outsider in that, in that space. We don't influence SIPs. We clearly know a lot of the membership, and we've been fortunate enough to do the odd talk here and there and talk to some of the branches. But I think they need to look at the diversity, both in terms of the suppliers that they're talking to. It shouldn't just be about some of the big players, but also the people. Every business, you look at procurement leadership, like any business area, it needs a refresh, fresh ideas, people talking about innovation, talking about ESG, talking about diversity. The reason why it's stagnated and these challenges that we're having is because there hasn't been changes. It's still, dare I say it, in some respects, the same faces, the same names, the same maturity. You need different voices. And I think that is a real systemic problem in the procurement industry. Looking at it from I guess I'm an imposter in this. I'm a recruiter, not a procurement person, but I think I've been in the industry long enough to kind of see that. And I think that's one of its real biggest challenges. It should be having people that can add that influence. That just throwing out there, but that's my view.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think for me as well, one of the issues with this whole marketing of procurement is actually procurement is different. Like every procurement team seems to be very different. So especially in whether they take on strategic work or tactical work, it's sort of, I've ended up in teams before thinking that the role is going to be incredible, and then you're sort of like, almost like an admin function. It's like, actually, again, I guess it's a challenge, because I think that, different businesses will need different types of procurement teams. But yeah, I think, Kirsty, the point you made about reporting to finance, that's obviously, that gives it a particular focus from a sort of a cost point of view. But then, it's how we sort of like raise that level and say we're on more of a strategic function.
Well, I think we have to evolve. And I think, if Brexit and COVID haven't done enough to in terms of evolution, and haven't pushed us to the top and given us the profile and the marketing function, it's not going to happen. So it's like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to address this? What is it that we can align ourselves to? What is the future? And for me personally, the future is sustainability. The future, and I think the world of sustainability and procurement are already colliding and they are merging. And we may not see, and we keep talking about this, it's one of the most boring conversations, are we going to see procurement at the top table, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? We won't, because if we haven't by now, we'll never go to, maybe in a few organizations, but we will see CSOs, we will see sustainability managers. So maybe that's the route we need to go down. Maybe procurement needs to rebrand. Maybe it needs to work with the world of sustainability, find its space, find its niche there, and use that to its advantage. Maybe we need to be the parasite.
Well, I think a lot of it. I'd agree to a degree on that. I think the sustainability piece is becoming integrated in procurement, and we're seeing that increasingly under people's portfolio and remit. And I think absolutely it should be a good place for procurement to find. But I still think the evolution of that needs to be around the branding of actually what procurement means, which I think Kirsty referenced a second ago. It's not the cost police, it's not a compliance and governance function. It's something a lot bigger than that. And I think there needs to be still that shift. It's about education, ultimately. It's education of businesses. And that, again, comes back to people coming out from their A-levels and colleges and degrees. And, why are we not doing more placements? Why are we not doing more internships in procurement? There are small costs to businesses, these multi-billion pound turnover, FTSE 100, 250 businesses. They should be investing in that. And I think there's a lot of talk around it and procurement top table, and they need to be doing this and there's add value. It's come a long way, don't get me wrong. I think we'll all agree. We've been in the profession long enough. It's come a long way from where it was, but there's still a lot more to do. And again, it just comes back to what I keep saying. It's investing in educating in not just graduates, people that are coming out of school and coming out from, a store manager, a store manager in a retail shop could get exactly apprenticeships. Why isn't a store manager going in and becoming a buyer for one of their retail partners or there's so much there because it's from behaviours.
But Martin, does that not lead on to what I just said? Because what is going to make the next generation excited about procurement? What is exciting them at the moment? What is, what is the big topics out there? And I think we have to find out what those are, and then we need to align to them. The only way we're going to make it sexy is finding
Are we in danger of just jumping on the next bandwagon? So I have a view on sustainability. Yes, super important, the same as all of the ESG stuff. However, that isn't the sole responsibility of procurement.
No,
that is a business-wide responsibility. And if you dilute it down to say to procurement, that's another thing that you're now responsible within this business and you're going to fly the flag for it, that again takes away from what is it the procurement are there to do, because you then become another governance police. You're then going out and saying to people, you're not following ESG, you're not doing this. That's already the challenge we have. So whilst I agree that it's really important, I'm seeing a lot of that's where procurement should go. I'm going to agree to disagree on that, because I feel that's just giving you another barrier for you to get out.
The debate comes. Yeah, it's taken 18 minutes, so here we go.
Enough. No, it's important to debate. I mean, I don't think we're going to be able to get away from it. And like you say, sustainability is huge. And when I
don't want us to get away from it, but I just don't want us to be pigeonholed, because every other function in the business says, oh, not sure I want to own that. Oh, I know, I'm going to give it to procurement because they already do the governance stuff. That's not how it should be.
But if it was bigger than governance, what an exciting thing to lead on. If it's going to be the thing that... Go on.
You've got to get there for companies. So my view on ESG is you've got a lot of companies ticking the box, and you've got a lot of smaller companies that don't even know where to start.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough known about it yet for procurement to go in and say, we're going to save the day and we're going to do this, that and the other, and we're going to align ourselves. That's great if you're a big corporate and you've got everything going for you. But that isn't the case for small businesses and SMEs. They don't even know where to start. So to then give that responsibility to procurement, I think it's just a little bit unfair. And again, we're going to have an issue of, okay, well, what does procurement do? What are they here for? We've got triple bottom line. We're going to throw in sustainability.
But that's part of the triple bottom line. I don't know.
But I still see that as not. It shouldn't be primarily with procurement.
Fair enough.
If there's hopefully people listen to this that are procurement leaders at the moment, how many of them in their heart of hearts? I mean, obviously, I know COVID's restricted people going into face to face, but how many people in the last 5 years have gone into a university, have gone into college to talk about procurement? Good, but I'll be interested to know how many people that listen to this have done that.
Yeah, true.
And upselling what they're doing. I agree with Kavita to a degree. There needs to be a hook in for the new generation. I do agree with that. But also with Kirsty, I guess it's looking more holistically on what procurement's doing and the value that it can add on a wider basis. But again, it's the education of that, and it's there's always needs to be a commitment. We talk about the sustainability pledge, which we're all a part of, but actually there's almost to be a pledge from an education perspective that as a procurement leader, you make a pledge that in a year, and I'm making up numbers here, you commit to go to 5 colleges or universities to discuss procurement as a career and entry point. Why aren't CFOs or CPOs, procurement directors, why are they not investing some of their headcount and budget rather than spending someone a lot of money on a day rate contractor or whatever it may be? Why don't you go and invest some of that money in a graduate or go and invest on a trainee program or something? So,
do we find them doing that for other professions?
Yes.
Which
they do it in finance. Well, let's look at finance. So the ACCA program and things that they do in the finance graduate degrees, they put them on these placements. And you think about the Grant Thorntons of the world, and some of these books, I've got friends that work there. They put them on these year placements. They do it on industrial placements as well. They do it in supply chain on a broader level. I used to work at Coca-Cola. They had one of the best graduate programs out there from a supply chain point of view, and they hired in apprentices working in the factories. And there's amazing succession planning there that went into people that would then become supply chain directors, some transition to procurement. They did it fantastic. Now, yes, they had a big wallet to do that and invest in that, but that's kind of irrelevant to a degree here. That it doesn't matter the size and scale of your business. There needs to be done. So yeah, it's happening in loads of different other disciplines.
But maybe going back to what Kirsty said at the beginning, it's procurement's really broad. So it's almost like you can't take the world. It's very hard to take the world of procurement and just go, this is what we do in procurement. In finance, is a bit more. I don't mean to be mean.
Structured. It's more structured.
Yeah, it's more structured. It's it's numbers at the end of the day. Procurement is huge. So where would you start?
You break it down to Rich, I'll get your views on that, but I've got my opinion. But Rich, sorry, go on, get your views.
And I think it is, and in procurement, as we've said, there's a whole load of soft skills. I don't think. Finance is a big area as well, and there's lots of different businesses, and they work in different ways, and there's different operating group companies and all that type of stuff. So that can be complex. I think from a procurement point of view, I think there's some key central focal skills that we need to be working on. As we said, there's a lot around this soft skills. My piece is, I think we're really lacking is the whole digital skills, and you could, because that's digitizing procurement. You can't really do that unless you've got those skill sets in there, and that's bringing in people who've got maybe coming from other disciplines. They're coming from sort of the IT area or wherever it is. That's something that I think we're really missing. So I think the idea of going around and sort of talking about the profession and getting people interested in the profession, I think that's something that we are missing, and it feels like we haven't really got that pipeline of talent that's coming in that we should have, and that we will need as well, because people will be retiring. That's the
what's really interesting, Rich, as well, is just that idea. I mean, at the end of the day, procurement's money management. It's risk management. It is risk management, but money management is a large part of that. On the curriculum today, we're not even taught, or children aren't even taught, how to manage their own personal finances. If that was a module, if that was something that was invested in, then it's a natural progression into how do businesses manage that money. So I think there is something there that the educational system can really look at. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't have children, but I have nieces and nephews, and I've looked at their maths homework. It's beyond my capabilities, but I have this conversation quite a lot. Where are the life skills? Where are the how to balance my bank account? Where are the how much is that? How do I work that out? It just seems that all of that life stuff has gone. I do agree with that. I think there's a element of getting in at a much younger age, which is why I'm a huge fan of apprenticeships and stuff. And I am an advocate of, I think there's some socioeconomic barriers as well in some of these roles, finance, procurement, etc. There's an expectation that you've got to be a graduate, which I again disagree with.
It's a tick box. It's a tick
box.
Yeah,
it's just you've got a degree, brilliant. That's fantastic. You've proven that you can knuckle down and do something for 1 year out of 3. You've passed an exam, great. But for our profession, unless you're a rocket scientist or a doctor, I think the work begins when you're in a workplace, and you have to start to learn how to communicate with people, how to build networks, how to build proper relationships, how to adult properly, how to have disagreements in a respectful manner, how to negotiate. You negotiate internally with your own team, with your line manager, with your colleagues, with your co-workers on a day-to-day basis. And I do agree, it's getting in there at a younger age and demonstrating that those skills are still really worth having out in the real world.
And those businesses providing that funding, because another thing I was going to say, just in terms of, from like your SIPS level 4, 5, 6, unless your business it's expensive. We have it all the time with candidates going, I've got to spend £5,000 or whatever it may be to go get my level 5 and 6. If they're practically applying that, I know there's other mechanisms you can get in and get those qualifications, but businesses need to be funding and supporting that, because cost of living is shooting through the roof. Everything is becoming more expensive. Salaries, are spiraling, as we discussed at the start of this. So I think it's around investment. Businesses are investing in sustainability. Going back to that, they should be investing in technology as well. Investing in all these areas is people. That's the ultimate thing we're talking about here. It's about people.
Yeah.
And businesses need to be looking at how they invest in that. It's frustrating for us. It's quite demoralizing for us that we're reading the same job descriptions that I was reading 13 years ago. We're hearing about the same stuff that we were hearing about. So I think there needs to be that shift. We need to be working.
What's going to drive that, though, Martin?
I think SIPS should be doing more than that.
But just going to the businesses. Sorry, businesses investing in people. Yeah, absolutely. Morally, we should be doing that. We should be doing that. But businesses and procurement is driven into how to reduce cost, how to automate, how to put technical solutions in place so that we can reduce our resource and our headcount. So the worlds don't marry up. So how does that happen in organizations that are driven fundamentally by their bottom line?
That's where procurement leaders, CPOs, directors need to be driving the ROI and showing that and talking about that. You hire someone now on a 20 grand a year grad scheme for me, and that return of investment will be triple digit in 12 months time, probably less than that. So that it's the sell, it's the influencing of that. If they can get on the platform and get that in, then it's got to be driven by procurement. It can't be just relied on by, SIPS or whatever the governing body is, take them aside, or education. It needs to be driven from the organizations themselves. It's a two-way thing. Our universities in the UK need to be driving that and raising that and putting it on the agenda and putting it on graduate programs and colleges as well, and apprenticeships, as you say, Kirsty. But procurement businesses, they need to be doing this pledge. This is the pledge that I'm going to commit to hiring X people this year that don't come from a procurement background, that don't work in a competitor, that haven't got 10 years experience in X, Y, and Z, that will actually invest in, that we're going to take a chance on. Again, what a great success story. And just not seeing enough. Maybe I'm being a bit sort of, fanciful about that, but I just think that is a real clear and obvious gap that it's not doing at the moment.
So that comes down
and
to
on the flip side of
diversity.
that, on the flip side of that, you've got retention as well for people who are 15, 20 years into their career, who, as I said at the beginning, are seeing salaries that we're paying graduates now just to get them through the door because we've got this skills gap. And I'm now sat there going, hang on a minute. So I'm 15, 20, 25 years into my career, and they're going to come out of university and be paid exactly the same as I'm being paid. And again, that's exacerbating the problems, because we're losing skilled people because they don't feel valued. So we've got issues both ends of the scale there to try and address, which we're not going to do that in isolation. I think it's a tough ask.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I agree with that. And actually, the answer I was going to say, generally, talking from a recruitment point of view, we don't say to our clients, for a category manager, I'll just pay another 10 grand, you'll get X, because that's just almost burying it in the sand. That's not addressing the problem. So I do agree. But I think growing, your own staff and team, investing and growing that, I think for someone, I'm sure you'll agree, Kirsty, someone that's 15 years into a career is going to watch this graduate build up and develop. What a great success story. I mean, inflation's changed. It's nuts at the moment. And unfortunately, that's not an overnight fix. There'll hopefully be a leveling out at some point. But sadly, I don't see that happening much in 2022. But I think it's still a potential solution to this that businesses need to be looking at.
But it's not going to fix the talent shortage immediately, like you said, is it? This is a 3, 4, 5 year plan. So what is the solution today? What is it that they can do to address that? And I do think it is looking at doing things very differently while still looking at investment and investment within their own organization, transferable skills, taking people from different parts of the business, people that maybe already have those influential skills. You've got salespeople who are great negotiators. Why not just bring them at the end of a procurement activity and get them to negotiate the final clauses and get things across the line? Think things a bit differently.
I think they need to flex the barrier of entry. The barrier of entry needs to be flexed. It needs to be relaxed, it needs to be changed, it needs to be looked at. I know a couple of, I won't mention them by name on this. I know a fantastic person that's gone into one of our clients. They have no procurement background. They're in a sales, software sales person. They've gone into this business and they've been there 6 months and they're absolutely nailing it. They've picked it up fantastically. No procurement at all. Knew roughly what it is from a sales point of view, but didn't really know it at all. And they've done amazing. So it's the barrier to entry needs to be flexed in the short term, not just paying another 10 grand on a basic or 20 grand or do this. It's not the answer. It's just exacerbated the problem in inflating salaries.
And that's the thing. I mean, there's definitely some transferable skills there, and there's some soft skills, and then the actual procurement work itself. There's elements of process. There's elements of obviously documented things that you can work through. It's that part of the work's never the most difficult thing. The most difficult thing is building relationships with suppliers, with stakeholders. You know, having that sort of commercial nous and gathering requirements. I mean, as a panel, what areas do you think we're particularly short in, if any? There's specific skills that we're looking for, or what do we need?
I think, from my perspective, I think a lot of it's down to industry knowledge, specific industry knowledge.
Yeah.
So actually, it's really interesting what you said, Martin, about a salesperson going into with software knowledge going into an IT role, because I do think having an understanding of the industry. So, for example, at the end, when you come into a negotiation, let's say it's an end of year, knowing how a particular supplier is going to behave at the end of that year, when their salespeople are trying to get everything across the line, they've got some big targets, what levers to push, what they're going to compromise on, where to go. That kind of specialism, that kind of knowledge is where I think people are struggling. But I think that's also where you can flex. And, as Martin says, bring in different kind of talent, maybe collaborate with other parties, maybe bring in consultants, interims just from that piece, or bring in salespeople from across your organization. So I do think there are ways to tackle it.
The poacher turn gamekeeper type approach is.
Why not? If the skill set, the resource, the experience, the knowledge sits within your organization, why not tap into it? Why go out and try and recruit an additional resource when you don't need it? But I think a lot of that then comes from actually doing a skills assessment in your organization, saying, well, what skills do we have, and where can we tap into these individuals when we need them? And being a bit more proactive in that space. Sorry.
I think on that point, I totally agree. And I think on that point, it's also around measuring it. Because I appreciate when we go back to earlier, we're talking about soft skills. That is it's not very tangible sometimes to kind of say, what does that mean? And it's very much the gut feel of the hiring manager. So to a degree that works, but there does need to be something more broad that can kind of measure that. So I think if there's a tool or something that we can use, I don't know what that is, what that tool would look like, but something to measure behaviors, to look at that and have that as part of a process when people are hiring and recruiting. So ignoring the years of experience, and as you say, looking at that broader piece, I think that would really help as well and benefit businesses measuring that and justifying why they're bringing those people in.
Definitely. I think we need to go down the A-team route, where you bring in the right people, Hannibal, whoever you need.
For that
definitely
project. A cross-functional team on everything that you do would iron out so many issues.
Amazing. And then you'd have to have people.
I mean, what a revelation that would be, actually working together.
Amazing. But we couldn't ever do that, Kirsty.
No. For me, it's
in your title.
Yeah. For me, it's still about road shows. It's still about marketing. It's still about promoting. It's still about spreading the word. It's still about telling people what wonderful profession we are and what they can expect if they want to come and join us. And I think that's definitely where my passion lies, is getting more people through the door from all walks of life.
I think
I think we're doing that. I think to give some credit, I know we've been a bit sort of negative about various things and the challenges, but I think what I've certainly seen from an outsider is that when the pandemic hit, and actually everyone was like, oh my God, and every business, obviously it's not just exclusive to procurement, but in the procurement community and industry, we've seen these groups being connected, and I'm seeing CPOs doing sort of selfies with themselves at a supplier venue and talking around one of their team. And it's just stuff, it's social media content that I've never seen before in procurement, and people going on podcasts and going on events and doing these things. It's fantastic. These blogs, these people on TikTok and stuff. And, it's just brilliant to see actually talking about the industry. So it shifted from quite a poor level, quite a low barrier, to now it's definitely sort of growing. So I think testament to the industry, it is getting better. We just need to continue that momentum. Sorry to interrupt you.
I've completely forgotten what I was going to say. Don't worry.
Sorry. You made a really good point. I just wanted to pick up
the point, Martin. It's the momentum. So whilst we've been doing this push through COVID, because we've been forced to pivot and do things differently and actually demonstrate that we're humans underneath the cost saving and all this that we've got going on, my worry is that now we're going back to some semi-normal, that we slip back into old behaviours. And I think that's where leadership and people like Kavita and I, who can do that for our own businesses and shape it the way that we want to, and yourself as in recruitment for our profession, is to make sure that we don't take our foot off the gas and that we carry on with that momentum of positive change.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't just hide behind the office desk. Don't go back into the office and just hide behind it and not do that sort of, PR for your own profession. Yeah, totally agree.
But I think it's now also taking it to the next level. So we're all quite visible on social media, I would say. And that's great, and from my perspective, being a minority woman, fantastic. And I want to encourage more of it. And this is what we need to see more of. We need to hear more voices, not just our voices, voices of people, throughout the profession, people at the very beginning and at the top. And one of the challenges you have is people don't want to put themselves out there. So it's how do you make them feel comfortable and safe? And yes, you can say how you feel, and, and it's okay to do that. And actually, this is how we're going to progress. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges. Yeah,
that's a real challenge.
And I guess, even bring the group together here. There's three of us who are sort of ex-practitioners in a way, but it's difficult to find current practitioners who want to actually come on and sort of share their experience and get involved in the debate. And I think we do need more of that. I know there are some out there that are happy to do that, but yeah, I guess we're on LinkedIn. If there's anyone who's watching who wants to get into the procurement profession, what should they be doing?
Stunned silence across the group.
Get into procurement.
Yeah, reach out to people who are in procurement. Go on LinkedIn, find the people that are already in those roles. Message them. Can I have a Zoom chat? Can I pick your brains? Can I have 10 minutes? I mean, I'll say now. Anybody wants to talk to me about procurement, my virtual door is open. Just come and have a chat. Find me, connect with me, and I will talk to you about it. Ring some local companies, ask if they've even got a procurement function. Have a look at SIPs. There's lots of rich resource out there. I think it just starts with, finding one of us or somebody on LinkedIn that you like the look of, that works in the profession, that will give you half an hour to have a chat.
I think it really sounds very American, but you've got to lean in. You've got to be willing to accept. You've got to be willing to take on information. You may not agree with it, or you may disagree with different approaches and whatever, but it's willing to absorb yourself into that world, which isn't always easy for everybody. I had a conversation with somebody who contacted me, wanted to know how to get into the profession, and I promise you this is true. Had the conversation, called her back half an hour later and recruited her for 6 months. So she's working with us for 6 months. So it is, if you want to get into that world, and people are recruiting at the moment, do it. You never know what can come out of it. So it is definitely worthwhile speaking to people, as Kirsty says.
I think it's a good point you made there around the it is quite daunting to start with. Some people are very, us four, I think it's fair to say, are very confident and go on LinkedIn, do a photo or do a video or do whatever, and share that with our network and get hopefully some good engagement. I was literally having this conversation with someone today when I was in London, and they're kind of at that CPO level, and they're sort of, where do I start? I've never networked before. I've been in the same business for a long time. I don't even know where to start. I know a couple of recruiters from using them as an agency, but I have no idea where to start. And I said, if you're not sure, because it's not saying, just go and put a photo or go and do a video or something. I said, write a blog. Even if you just write a blog, just write something down, brain dump something that you're passionate about in the procurement area, whatever that may be, and just write a blog and just post it and see what happens, see what lands. I said, you'll be amazed how many ex-colleagues, contacts in your network will like it, engage with it, comment, agree, disagree, whatever. And so that's sometimes the little momentum that you need to then give the push. And I've seen it, again, since when the pandemic hit, I've seen people, I've watched their journey going from a blog to a video to, a community to a network. And it's amazing to see. And it needs that little nudge to start with. We all have our different sort of tipping points on our confidence level. So my advice would be write a blog, see how that goes. There's no right or wrong. It's your opinion. It's your view. It's a thought leader in the market. And then hopefully it can kind of get momentum from there.
And I'd just like to add to that one thing. It's interesting that you said, Rich. You said yourself, Kirsty, and myself are practitioners, and therefore, obviously we know the world of procurement. However, Martin owns a business. Martin, you buy stuff all the time for your business. You procure stuff. Everybody has procured something, be it personal or for their business. We may all have different approaches. We may have different processes that we've used, but we've all done it. So it's not alien to any of us. We may have a bit more structure around it because we've been taught it, or we've been given guidelines around it. So I think, again, it goes back to making people feel comfortable and safe that it's normal. It's a life skill. We all have to buy stuff.
Yeah.
So why can we not talk about it more? If I found a really good deal online, I'd be telling everybody, like, forget my world of procurement. I'm telling all my friends, oh my God, I got this great deal with BA. Look, earlier we were talking about, when we were in the room before this, split ticketing. Oh my God, what a saving. That's buying. So it's, how do you feel comfortable in that environment?
Making it relatable. Yeah, it's a really good point.
And we probably need to make people more comfortable with making mistakes as well. I know sometimes there's this thing in procurement about how things have to be quite sort of perfect, and the danger with that is you're very slow to get to the result, and actually sometimes it's like, what's the worst that can happen? And I know, obviously, I'm not talking about nuclear fuels or whatever. There are some categories that are a bit more risky than others, but generally, getting 80% of the way there and doing things, and then learning if things go wrong. That's, I've personally learned a lot in my career from things that have not gone quite the way that I wanted it to. But I think there's a lot of people don't necessarily admit to that, and especially in a public forum, people won't necessarily admit to that. So I think we've got to be a bit more comfortable with that type of thing. I don't know. I haven't actually been watching the questions. I don't know if anyone had any questions out there, but we're getting sort of close to time now. But I guess, if anyone did have one, you can post it in the chat. Sorry, Martin, I cut through you then.
No, Graham's got a point, which I guess we made earlier, just looking at around the soft skills. Tough to assess, and how do you assess the skills? So I guess just sort of going on that point there, and I guess, again, putting some mechanism in place to actually measure that, so you can then track that and measure that across the business. I think that's a really important point when we talk around soft skills. So,
I think some of those, like 360 reviews, or just talking to your peers, talking to suppliers, did you have a great engagement with that procurement person? How was it? We're always assessing and measuring our suppliers, but do we do it enough the other way around?
Yeah, good point. It's a two-way street, isn't it? Our behaviours will affect the way that we're serviced. So, it's a real miss probably sometimes that we don't ask those questions.
And I think the most popular post I've ever done was around soft skills. Like, people love to think about what is it that we could be doing in procurement, what are the skills that are really valuable for us, and there's some you can do a bit of research, you can find them online, but there's some that are you've never even heard of, but quite I guess it's another way of sort of labeling a behavior or a skill that's very useful for procurement. So
it gets the most engagement. If you think about the post that we do, I spent all this time crafting this written post around something to do in procurement, and it might get some engagement, and then I'll post around something that happened or whatever, and it suddenly get goodness knows how many likes and comments. So actually, if you're showing that human side to you, I think there's a real something to be said around that in terms of how you engage with your audience, and similarly how you engage with your team. I think that human side to you is something, going back to the soft skills, which is so important.
And I think in business as well, we've seen this shift over the last few years where we've moved into a relationship era. So it's like, when you think about how organizations engage their customers, they're really trying to build up a personalized relationship with them. And I think that's sort of that's gone into business as well, behind the scenes in the internal functions. And actually, for procurement, it's coincided with silos breaking down. So really are like the whole relationship piece is, especially, we had a question over like looking sort of 5 years down the line, how do we get the right pipeline? What are the skills that we're going to be needing in the future? I think the whole relationship building piece is going to be massively important. But I don't know, in the last sort of couple of minutes.
It is, because it's the one thing, Rich, that computers can't do.
Yeah.
So, we have to, and I think that's where we're going to see that. We're going to see such a shift. So, it's going to be soft skills and automation.
Yeah.
Great. We're coming to the end of the time, I think, unless there's any final thoughts.
Invest in your people. Invest in. I want to see CPOs putting schemes together, hearing these success stories of these apprenticeship schemes, of these graduate programs, of people going out to colleges, college universities. Shout out to Paul Alexander, for those that know him. Talk to him, because he's, I know, a massive advocate of that from University of Portsmouth, a procurement practitioner. Talk to these kind of people in the marketplace. Invest in your people. That would be my biggest thing here.
I would agree. And as we're talking investing in people, Rich, I want a mug that says the procurement conversation for our next call, please.
I have to send you one, do I? Is that
perfect?
Love a bit of merch. Thanks, guys. Enjoyed that.
Brilliant. Yeah, well, it was great to talk. And we'll, if anyone's got any suggestions for next topic, then obviously, do send that over. All the, I think our messages are all open, so we can, just send over messages. And we'll have a think as well. And I think we're probably coming back in the next sort of 2 weeks or so for the next chat.
Fantastic.
Thanks, everyone.
Brilliant. Thanks all. Good to talk.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.